St. Albans, Vermont. A town originally chartered in 1763 and settled in 1783. This town started its existence with its focus on farming, but soon, eventually gained the nickname the Railroad City for its connection to the Central Vermont Railway. This was due to it being connected to Canada. This would soon be more important than many realized, when this town would eventually become the center of one of the strangest events during the American Civil War. Around 1864, the Confederates were on the losing side and were desperate. Bennett Young, a Confederate lieutenant, had a plan to target the North. He got this plan approved by the Confederate government. "So, I got this plan to target the North and need your approval." "Okay, you got your approval." Soon a group of 22 men came by train. They came and schemed to rob the town of St. Albans, and they chose this town due to the lack of troops and due to the knowledge of the 4 banks in the area. They originally planned to do the raid on October 18th, 1864, but pushed it a day back to October 19th, 1864, due to it being market day, leaving the town too crowded. These men were equipped with pairs of Navy .36 caliber pistols, satchels to carry items, and also had containers of Greek fire. They were also told to partially wear the Confederate uniform while committing the crime. Apparently no one listened, so they ended up making up for it with rebel yells. Dang it. At 3 o'clock, this group went out onto Main Street. Bennett Young yelled a declaration to the town. "I take possession of this town in the name of the Confederate States of America." 3 groups entered 3 banks located on Main Street: the St. Albans Bank, the Franklin County Bank, and the First National Bank of St. Albans. A group rushed in. They entered the back office, forcing the door open so fast it busted the worker named Cyrus Newton Bishop on the head. There was another hostage in the room named Martin A. Seymour. Both hostages had in the raiders' pistol sights. During the robbery, a customer knocked on the locked door outside. A raider opened the door, thrust a gun in Breck's face, pulled him inside, and snarled, "I take deposits." Something similar also happened to another customer named Morris Roach, though we don't know what the raider said to him. Both of these men were also put in the hostage room. The raiders continued to look for stuff such as medals and paper money. They even questioned Seymour about the location of the rest of the gold, but he refused to give them the information. $50,000 worth of gold, $919,744.90 in 2022 money, was saved from being robbed from his silence. Then, the raiders made the hostages swear loyalty to the Confederacy on a Confederate Constitution. Then they left to join the other raiders. They got away with $80,000 worth of stolen goods, around $1,471,591.84 in 2022 money. There were 2 people in the bank, Marcus W. Beardsley, who was the cashier, and Jackson W. Clark, which I don't know what he was doing. They were both at Franklin County Bank. With other people waiting inside the bank, things seemed normal, until a group of people entered. This was the group of raiders from the first robbery. All the raiders waited for most of the civilians to leave. Then they struck. The people waiting in the bank were raiders in disguise. They pulled out guns and spun a terrible lie. "We are Confederate soldiers. There are 100 of us in town. We have come to rob the banks and burn the town, and we're going to do it." They lied. There was only 22 people, though they did plan to burn the town after the robbery. That was what the Greek fire was for. They watched the hostages, but the raiders soon left an opening. One of the hostages saw this opening and took it. Jackson W. Clark ran for the exit, but the plan didn't work. They threatened to murder him if he did that again. The raiders went into the vault and looted all the valuables that they could. Clark took advantage of this again when the raiders were distracted with the loot. He ran to the exit again, but was stopped with further threat of murder. The raiders forced both the hostages into the vault, which would be especially horrifying. If you're locked in a metal tomb, everything burning around it, the hostages were concerned with suffocating or overheating, especially if the town was burnt to the ground. "This'll be murder," said one of the hostages. They were sealed away. The raiders left soon after with $70,000 worth of gold. $1,287,642.86 in 2022 money. The hostages were let out 20 minutes later, escaping an unfortunate fate. At the same time as the last robbery, the First National Bank of St. Albans was robbed.
"Okay, you know the deal. If you offer any resistance, I'll shoot you dead."
The raiders dealt with the people inside. One of these people was a man named John Nason, a veteran of the War of 1812. This man read the newspaper while the bank was being robbed.
"Shoot the old cuss."
"No, he is an old man."
"What are you all doing?"
William N. Bladesdell, a citizen known for being burly, walked into the bank and confronted the men. He tried to stop the robbery by attempting to take them on, even landing on one. But they were going to shoot him, so he had to surrender. The robbers ended up taking $58,000 in 1864 money, about $1,094,522.80 in 2022 money. The total stolen throughout all the robberies was $208,000 in 1864 money and $3,925,185.22 in 2022 money. The remaining raiders not robbing the banks were attempting to keep the people in the town square, and were trying to control the flow of information from getting to the authorities. They weren't very successful since many people broke away, including George Conger, a Union soldier. Another person named Collins Huntington was walking and minding his own business when the raiders told him to join the hostages. Huntington ignored them since, well, what are they gonna do, shoot him? He survived the injury. A resistance was forming. People were not gonna put up with this. One man, Linus Morrison, was part of a group trying to stop them. Bennett Young shot him in the hand and the abdomen. He later died. Linus Morrison was the only casualty in this raid, and is the northernmost casualty in the American Civil War. The raiders used their guns and Greek fire against the citizens in the town. They tried to hold off resistance, knowing that now was the time to leave. One of the raiders, Charles Higbee, was injured in a firefight, and if that wasn't enough, George Conger turned out to be a captain in the U.S. Army, and used those skills to lead the opposition to the raiders, and he joined that first firefight. Then Captain Conger gathered a posse of 50 people, which was eventually added on to by a different posse of 40 people, led by F. Stuart Strahan and John W. Newton.
"Stop. Let's steal this guy's horse instead. It looks faster."
"Thank you, good sir, for the horse."
"May you see it never."
Okay, so once the thieves steal this guy's horse, right? They left one of their horses in their place. Once the victim takes their horse and rides it in the direction of town so he can report this crime that has just happened, when he notices the posse, and the posse notices him, they also notice that he's on one of the thieves' horses. So, logically, they start shooting at him. They thought he was one of the raiders. The freaking ran for his life until he hit some concealment in a field of plants. A miracle he didn't get shot. They eventually realized he wasn't a raider, so They continued on to chase the raiders down. The raiders eventually crossed a bridge and lit it on fire, using a farmer's cart of hay as fuel. Unlike everything else they tried to burn, the bridge actually did catch fire. It was put out quickly enough. The posse eventually crossed. The raiders passed through the town to Sheldon and stole another horse from the house. They eventually then rode on toward Canada, eventually crossing the border after splitting up. Once the raiders crossed the border into Canada, they must have been ecstatic, not knowing that the posse was still chasing them across the border. The day after the raid, Conger approached Young. "I have come to arrest you and bring you to be hung for your crimes." Conger got into a fistfight trying to arrest Young. Young and some of the other raiders were nabbed and put into a wagon. The British Canadian police were there to put a stop to this extrajudicial kidnapping. Young and a few more raiders were in their custody now. Only 14 out of 22 raiders were captured. British Canada, holding the prisoners, increased tensions between Britain and the US. The US wanted trial to be done in their country, where the crime had been committed, because that was the constitutional requirement of the perpetrator. British Canada did the trial in Montreal, going directly against the United States' wishes. Good thing that didn't end up going anywhere. Bad, at least. And so ends the story of the Confederate invasion of New England. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm glad that it would have been logistically impossible for them to do more raids like this in this area. Just imagine what could have happened. Hope you all have a good day. The end.